The room was buzzing with excitement. People were chatting, laughing, and sipping their drinks, waiting for the music to start. A small stage was set up in the corner, and in the middle of it stood a shiny black piano. The lights above reflected off its smooth surface, making it look almost magical. Everyone seemed ready for the main performer, expecting someone confident and experienced to take the spotlight. Among the crowd, a quiet girl stood near the back. She was dressed simply, with her hair pulled back, and there was something about her that made most people overlook her. She clutched a small notebook of music notes close to her chest and took a deep breath. No one knew much about her. She didn't come from a family of famous musicians, and she wasn't one of those students who liked to show off. Most of the people in the room didn't even know she played the piano at all. Some of them noticed her watching the stage curiously, whispering to each other, "Do you think she's going to perform?" Or, "She looks so young." A few chuckled quietly, shaking their heads, as if they already knew the answer before she even touched the piano. The girl felt their eyes on her, full of doubt and judgment, but she tried not to let it bother her. She had a secret she had been hiding for years, and tonight was the night she might finally share it. She walked slowly toward the piano, each step making her heart beat faster. The closer she got, the louder the whispers became. Some people laughed under their breath, some made joking remarks, and a few even rolled their eyes. The girl kept her head down, trying to focus on the piano instead of the crowd. She gently sat on the bench and opened her notebook to the first page, but then she hesitated. Her fingers hovered above the keys, trembling slightly. The room seemed to grow louder in her mind, but outside, it was still just the normal chatter. She took another deep breath, reminding herself of the hours she had spent practicing in her room, alone, when no one was watching. She remembered the early mornings and late nights, the times when her fingers hurt and she thought she might never get it right. But she kept going, because music was part of her, something she could not ignore. The whispers turned into small laughs, and she felt the sting of their judgment. "Why is she even trying?" someone whispered. "She looks so nervous. She'll probably mess it up." Another voice snickered. "She's just a girl. What could she really do on that piano?" The girl closed her eyes for a moment, took another deep breath, and opened her eyes again. She reminded herself that the people who doubted her did not matter. The music did. The keys in front of her were like old friends, waiting for her to speak through them. She placed her fingers lightly on the keys and pressed the first note. It was soft and clear, and for a moment nothing else existed. The laughter faded slightly as the note lingered in the air. She played another, then another, her fingers moving with growing confidence. The music started slow, gentle, and careful, like a story unfolding one page at a time. She could feel the rhythm in her chest, and it helped her focus. The whispers in the room began to die down as the melody wrapped around everyone, drawing them in. Even the people who had laughed were now turning to listen, their faces showing surprise, curiosity, and a hint of wonder. She remembered the first time she had played a piece like this alone in her room. Her hands had trembled then too, but she had kept going, note by note, until it felt alive. Tonight it was no different, except the stakes felt higher. The audience was real, watching her, judging her, and she knew she had to let go of fear. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the music guide her, feeling each key under her fingertips, each note a part of her story. She didn't think about the laughter anymore. She didn't think about the whispers or the doubt. She only thought about the sound, about making it beautiful. Slowly, the melody began to fill the room. It was soft at first, but it grew, flowing like a river through the crowded space. The audience started to change. Some faces that were full of doubt softened. A few people leaned forward in their seats, trying to catch every note. There were small gasps here and there, not of shock or laughter, but of surprise at how lovely it sounded. The girl's fingers danced over the keys, and for the first time, she felt completely at ease, lost in the music. Her nervousness melted away, replaced by a quiet joy that she had never shared with anyone outside her room. Even though she was young and quiet, there was power in her playing. Every note seemed to tell a story, Every chord carried emotion. The audience began to realize that this girl, who had been mocked and doubted, had a gift they had never expected. People who had whispered jokes just moments ago were now holding their breath, not daring to interrupt. Some looked at each other with wide eyes, as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. The girl's music had changed the room, and everyone felt it. She glanced up briefly, noticing the change. The smirks and mocking smiles were gone. In their place were faces filled with awe and admiration. A few people even wiped away tears, touched by the emotion in the music. She smiled slightly, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had always loved the piano, but she had never imagined that it could move others like this. It was a strange, wonderful feeling, to know that something she had practiced quietly for years could have such an impact. The girl's music continued to flow, each note more confident than the last. She moved through her piece carefully, allowing the melody to rise and fall, to pause and breathe. It was like she was speaking to everyone in the room, telling a story they could feel without words. The laughter that had once surrounded her was gone, replaced by silence, and that silence was filled with wonder. Even the people who had doubted her the most were now leaning forward, captivated, unable to look away. As the final notes approached, her fingers moved with grace and precision. She could feel the piece reaching its climax, and her heart beat faster, not with fear this time, but with excitement. She wanted the last notes to be perfect, to leave the audience feeling the emotion she had poured into every practice session. She pressed down on the final chord, letting it resonate, and then lifted her hands slowly from the keys. For a moment, there was complete silence. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for someone to react. Then the applause began. It started softly, then grew louder, echoing through the room. People were standing, clapping, cheering, and some even shouted her name, amazed at what they had just witnessed. The girl felt a wave of relief and happiness wash over her. She had done it. She had faced the mocking, the doubt, and the fear, and she had shared her gift. She looked out at the crowd, smiling shyly, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. She had always known her love for music was special, but tonight, she had seen how it could touch others too. The experience was overwhelming, yet wonderful, and she knew she would never forget this moment. Some of the people who had mocked her before came up to her afterward, apologizing or expressing how impressed they were. Others simply nodded in respect, no words needed. She accepted their admiration quietly, feeling grateful but still humble. Music had always been her language, her way of expressing herself, and tonight, it had spoken louder than any words could. It had told her story, revealed her talent, and changed the way people saw her. She realized that courage, passion, and dedication could overcome doubt, and that sometimes, the smallest and quietest person could leave the biggest impression. As she packed up her notebook and stepped away from the piano, she felt a sense of calm joy. She knew there would be other performances, other challenges, but for now, she carried a memory of triumph and inspiration. The girl had faced the laughter, the mocking, and the doubt, and she had shown everyone that true talent could not be hidden for long. Her music had spoken for her, leaving the audience stunned and herself transformed in ways she would always remember. After the first performance, the girl felt a wave of calm confidence she had never experienced before. The applause had given her courage, but there was still a lot ahead. The room had changed since she first sat at the piano. The whispers and laughs that had filled the air were gone. In their place, people watched her with a mix of surprise and respect. She knew this was her chance to show that the music she carried inside was not just a fleeting moment but a reflection of her heart and soul. She took a deep breath and opened her notebook again, flipping to the next piece she had carefully chosen for this part of the performance. This piece was more complicated than the first, filled with sudden changes in tempo and intricate notes that demanded both speed and emotion. Her fingers hovered over the keys for a moment, remembering the long hours of practice, the times when she had stumbled and felt like giving up. She let all those memories guide her hands, letting the piano become an extension of herself. The room was quiet now, everyone holding their breath, curious to see what she would do next. Some had even stopped chatting and were leaning forward, their eyes fixed on her. The girl could feel the weight of their attention, but instead of fear, it made her focus sharper. She pressed the first key, and the music began again. The notes were softer at first, careful and deliberate, but as she moved through the piece, they grew stronger and more confident. She could feel the energy of the room reacting to every sound she played. Every chord, every melody, seemed to connect her to the audience. As the piece continued, she moved through difficult passages with precision and grace. Her fingers danced across the keys, moving quickly yet elegantly. Each note told a story, expressing feelings she had never found the words for. Some in the audience were leaning forward, eyes wide in surprise, unable to believe how a girl who had been mocked moments ago could play with such skill. Others whispered quietly to each other, expressing disbelief and admiration at the performance. She played with both focus and emotion, letting the music rise and fall, creating moments of tension and release. Her heart was in every note, and it showed. Some people began to smile, others closed their eyes, letting the music fill them completely. The atmosphere had shifted. It was no longer just a performance, but an experience that everyone in the room was sharing together. The girl could feel it too, a sense of connection that went beyond words, beyond applause. It was like the piano and the audience were all part of the same story, moving together as one. Halfway through the piece, the music took a sudden, dramatic turn. Fast notes and sharp chords filled the room, demanding attention and concentration. Her fingers moved swiftly, almost flying over the keys, but never missing a beat. The audience watched in awe, some leaning closer, trying to catch every detail. She could hear the gasps and whispers, but she didn't let them distract her. She focused on the rhythm, the melody, and the feeling behind each note. The piano was speaking for her, and she let it tell the story without hesitation. The girl remembered her first time playing this exact piece alone in her room. She had been frustrated many times, stopping and starting over, trying to get it perfect. She thought about the nights she had spent practicing until her fingers ached, and the mornings when she woke up early just to play for herself before anyone else was awake. All of that effort was here now, paying off in the way the audience was reacting. She smiled slightly, knowing that every struggle had led her to this moment. As the music reached its middle section, it became soft and emotional. She slowed her pace, letting the notes linger and resonate. The room was completely silent except for the sound of the piano. Every listener seemed lost in the music, experiencing it in their own way. Some were moved to tears, others simply sat in awe, taking in the beauty of what they were hearing. The girl could feel their emotions as she played, and it made her music even stronger. She was no longer just performing. She was communicating, sharing something deeply personal with everyone in the room. The energy began to build again as she moved toward the final section of the piece. Faster notes returned, but now they were filled with more confidence, more expression than ever before. Her fingers flew across the keys, but she felt in complete control. The audience was captivated. Some were whispering words of praise. Others could hardly believe what they were seeing. The mocking that had been there at the beginning of the evening seemed like a distant memory. Everyone was caught up in the beauty and power of her music. As she approached the final few measures, she played with all the emotion and skill she had built up over years of practice. Her hands moved effortlessly, and her heart was fully present in the performance. The last note hung in the air, long and clear, giving the audience a moment to absorb everything they had just witnessed. The room stayed silent for a few seconds, as if no one wanted to break the spell that had been cast. Then, applause erupted. The sound was louder and more powerful than before. People stood up, clapping and cheering, some even whistling in amazement. The girl felt a rush of joy and relief. She had faced the doubters, the mocking, and the nervousness, and she had triumphed. She looked out at the audience, their faces filled with awe and admiration. She smiled softly, feeling proud but still humble. Music had always been her passion, and tonight it had shown everyone that it could move hearts and change minds. After the applause, some audience members came forward to congratulate her. They told her how amazing she was, how they had underestimated her at first. Others simply nodded with respect, unable to find the words to express how impressed they were. The girl accepted their praise quietly, grateful but focused on the music itself. It wasn't about fame or recognition for her. It was about sharing something meaningful, something that could touch people's hearts. She realized that even though the world might doubt or mock, true passion and talent could never stay hidden. As she packed up her notebook and stood to leave the stage, she felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond words. The performance had not only surprised the audience but had also changed something inside her. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she could face them with courage and determination. She had discovered the power of believing in herself and letting her gift shine, even in the face of doubt and mockery. Walking back through the crowd, she noticed how people's expressions had changed. Some were whispering excitedly, sharing the experience with each other. Others looked at her with newfound respect, no longer seeing just a quiet girl, but someone who had the courage and skill to leave everyone stunned. The girl smiled faintly, carrying the memory of the performance with her. She had proven to herself that she could overcome fear and share her music with the world, and that feeling was more important than any applause or recognition. For the rest of the evening, people kept talking about the girl who had been mocked at first but had amazed everyone with her talent. Some of them admitted they had been wrong to judge her too quickly. Others simply shook their heads in awe, unable to forget the music that had filled the room. And the girl, walking quietly through the crowd, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew that her journey was just beginning, but tonight had shown her the incredible impact of courage, passion, and determination. Music had given her a voice, and she had used it to leave the world a little more amazed and inspired than before. After her second performance, the girl felt a quiet excitement growing inside her. She knew that she had already surprised the audience twice, but there was more to show. She walked back to the piano with a calm determination, each step steady and confident. The crowd was watching her closely now, some whispering to each other about the talent they had just witnessed. Their expressions had changed from doubt to curiosity, and a few even looked genuinely eager to see what she would do next. She opened her notebook and carefully chose the next piece. This one was even more challenging, filled with complex rhythms and sudden changes in melody. Her fingers hovered over the keys as she took a deep breath, feeling the anticipation in the room. She remembered the many times she had practiced this piece alone, the frustration when she couldn't get it right, and the joy when she finally did. That memory gave her strength. She pressed the first key, and a soft, delicate note filled the room. The audience leaned in, listening closely. The music flowed gently at first, like a river moving slowly through a quiet forest. The girl felt her nerves melt away as she focused on each note, each movement of her fingers. She allowed the music to guide her, letting it express emotions she had never been able to put into words. The whispers from before were gone. Now there was only silence, broken by the sound of the piano and the beating hearts of the audience. As she moved through the piece, the music grew more complex. Fast, intricate passages required precise finger movements, and she played with confidence and skill. Her hands flew over the keys, producing notes that were both powerful and delicate. The audience could not believe their eyes or ears. Those who had mocked her at the beginning were now leaning forward, eyes wide with admiration. Some whispered to each other, expressing disbelief that someone so young and quiet could play with such mastery. The girl's heart was in every note. She felt each chord resonate within her, and she let her emotions pour into the music. The audience was captivated. They felt her joy, her determination, and her love for the piano. Some closed their eyes, lost in the melody, while others watched her with awe, unable to look away. Every note she played seemed to tell a story of patience, hard work, and courage. Halfway through the piece, the music shifted. The melody became more dramatic, with sharp contrasts and sudden changes in tempo. Her fingers moved with incredible speed, yet with perfect control. The audience gasped at the complexity of what they were hearing. Some leaned closer, trying to catch every detail, while others simply sat in awe, amazed by her skill. The girl did not notice the reactions. She was completely absorbed in the music, letting it flow naturally from her heart. She remembered the hours she had spent practicing this section alone, the moments of doubt and frustration. Each mistake had taught her patience and perseverance. Now, as she played flawlessly, she felt a sense of triumph. She had transformed her hard work into something beautiful that could touch others. The applause from her previous performances motivated her, but she knew that this piece required full attention and emotion. She allowed herself to feel the music completely, to let it guide her hands and soul. The room was completely silent except for the piano. Every listener seemed to be holding their breath, fully immersed in the performance. The girl felt a strong connection with the audience, as if the music was a bridge between her heart and theirs. She noticed a few people wiping away tears, moved by the depth and emotion of the piece. Some were nodding slowly, impressed by her talent, while others stared in awe, unable to speak. As she approached the final section of the piece, the music became more intense. Fast, flowing notes demanded both speed and accuracy, and she played with complete focus. The audience was mesmerized, some leaning forward, some closing their eyes to fully experience the emotion. She felt a rush of energy as she reached the climax, each note carrying the weight of her dedication and passion. The room seemed to vibrate with the sound, and the audience was completely captivated. The girl played the final chord with precision and emotion, letting it resonate and linger in the air. The room stayed silent for a few moments, as if no one wanted to break the spell that had been created. Then, slowly, applause began. It started softly, then grew louder, echoing through the room. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even whistling in amazement. The girl felt a wave of joy and relief. She had faced every challenge, every doubt, and every mocking remark, and had turned them into admiration and respect. After the applause, several audience members approached her. They praised her talent, expressing how impressed they were with her skill and emotion. Some admitted that they had been wrong to judge her too quickly. Others simply smiled and nodded, respecting her dedication and courage. The girl accepted their admiration quietly, feeling proud but still humble. She knew that music was not about recognition, but about sharing something meaningful and powerful with others. Walking back through the crowd, she noticed the change in their expressions. Those who had once doubted her now looked at her with respect and admiration. Some whispered excitedly to each other, sharing their amazement at her performance. The girl smiled faintly, carrying a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. She had shown that talent and dedication could overcome doubt and mockery, and that even the quietest person could leave a strong impression when they followed their passion. As she stepped away from the piano, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The countless hours of practice, the frustration, the doubts, and the moments of perseverance had all led to this moment. She realized that courage, patience, and passion were just as important as skill. The audience had witnessed not just her talent, but her journey, and that made the performance even more meaningful. The girl knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more performances, and more opportunities to grow. But tonight had taught her an important lesson. When she believed in herself and let her music speak, she could touch hearts and inspire others. She had turned the mocking into admiration, doubt into respect, and silence into applause. The experience left her with a deep sense of pride, joy, and determination to continue sharing her gift with the world. As she walked away from the stage, she felt a quiet confidence and inner strength. The audience continued to talk about her performance, expressing amazement at her skill and emotion. Some admitted they had been wrong to judge her, while others simply shook their heads in awe. The girl smiled, knowing that she had made a lasting impression. Her music had not only entertained but had inspired and touched the hearts of everyone in the room. She had proven that talent, passion, and courage could overcome doubt and mockery, leaving the audience stunned and inspired. The girl returned to the piano for her fourth piece with a quiet determination. She had already amazed the audience with her previous performances, but this piece was different. It was emotional, dramatic, and required both skill and expression. She opened her notebook, letting her fingers rest gently on the keys, feeling the smooth surface under her touch. The room was silent, filled with anticipation. Everyone knew they were about to witness something special. She took a deep breath, remembering the countless hours of practice, the mistakes she had learned from, and the moments when she had thought she would never get it right. All of that experience was inside her now, ready to be shared with the world. She pressed the first key, and a soft, haunting note echoed through the room. The audience leaned in, captivated by the beauty and emotion of the sound. The music began slowly, each note deliberate and full of feeling. The girl allowed herself to get lost in the melody, letting the piano become an extension of her emotions. She moved her hands with precision and grace, expressing sadness, hope, and joy all at once. The audience was mesmerized. The mocking and doubt from before were completely gone. In their place was a deep respect and curiosity. Some people had tears in their eyes, moved by the depth of the music. As the piece progressed, the melody grew more complex. Fast passages required skill and focus, and she played each note with confidence. Her fingers moved effortlessly across the keys, producing music that was both powerful and delicate. The audience was completely absorbed, unable to look away. Some whispered in amazement. Others simply sat in awe, letting the music wash over them. The girl could feel the energy of the room as she played. Every chord, every note, seemed to connect her to the audience. She felt their emotions and allowed them to guide her performance. The music became a conversation between her and everyone present, a story told without words. She remembered the long nights of practice and the dedication that had brought her to this moment. It all mattered now, as the audience experienced the full depth of her talent. Halfway through the piece, the music shifted dramatically. Sudden changes in tempo and intense passages tested her skills, but she played with focus and precision. The audience gasped and leaned forward, captivated by her ability to handle such complexity. Some held their breath, unsure how she would manage the difficult sections. But she moved through them with grace, each note clear and intentional. The room was completely silent except for the music, and the effect was mesmerizing. The girl's emotions were fully expressed in every note. She felt joy, sadness, excitement, and hope all at once. Her hands moved faster now, yet with perfect control. The audience could see the passion in her performance, and it left them stunned. Some closed their eyes, letting the music speak to them directly. Others watched every movement, fascinated by the skill and expression she displayed. As the piece neared its climax, the intensity increased. Rapid notes and complex chords demanded all her focus, and she responded with precision and emotion. The audience was completely captivated, some unable to believe the talent they were witnessing. Even those who had doubted her at the beginning of the evening were now in awe, realizing how wrong they had been. Her music had transformed the room, turning disbelief into admiration. The final section of the piece was both delicate and powerful. She allowed the music to slow, giving each note space to breathe. The audience was silent, holding their breath as she played the last chord. The note lingered in the air, resonating with emotion and leaving a sense of wonder. For a moment, no one moved, as if the room itself was waiting to process the beauty they had just heard. Then, applause erupted. The sound was loud and powerful, echoing through the room. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even whistling in amazement. The girl felt a rush of joy and relief. She had faced every challenge, every doubt, and every mocking remark, and had turned them into admiration and respect. She smiled softly, feeling proud but still humble. Music had always been her passion, and tonight it had shown everyone the power of dedication and heart. After the performance, audience members approached her, expressing their amazement and respect. Some admitted they had been wrong to judge her too quickly. Others simply nodded with quiet admiration. The girl accepted their praise humbly, knowing that her purpose was to share music, not seek recognition. She realized that her talent and passion had spoken louder than words, leaving a lasting impression on everyone in the room. Walking through the crowd, she noticed the change in their expressions. Those who had mocked her before were now smiling, whispering to each other, or shaking their heads in disbelief. The girl felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had shown courage, determination, and talent could overcome doubt and fear. She had turned mocking into admiration, silence into applause, and doubt into respect. As she stepped away from the piano, she reflected on her journey. The countless hours of practice, the frustration, the failures, and the perseverance had all led to this moment. She realized that courage, passion, and dedication were just as important as skill. Her performances had not only entertained but had inspired, touching the hearts of everyone in the room. She knew that this was just one night in her journey. There would be more challenges, more performances, and more opportunities to grow. But tonight had taught her an important lesson. Believing in herself and letting her music speak could create a powerful impact. She had proven that true talent and dedication could overcome doubt and mockery, leaving the audience stunned and inspired. The girl walked away from the stage with a quiet sense of confidence. The audience continued to talk about her performance, expressing amazement and respect. Some admitted they had been wrong to judge her, while others simply shook their heads in awe. She smiled softly, knowing she had made a lasting impression. Her music had touched hearts, inspired others, and proven that courage and passion could change the way people saw her. She had turned a moment of doubt into an unforgettable experience, leaving everyone in the room amazed and inspired. The girl returned to the piano for her fifth piece, feeling a mixture of excitement and calm determination. She knew this was the moment to give her best performance yet. The room was completely silent, the audience waiting with anticipation. Everyone had already seen her talent in action, but there was something about this piece that demanded total focus and expression. She opened her notebook and let her fingers rest lightly on the keys, feeling the familiar smoothness beneath her touch. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the first key. A soft, melodic note filled the room, immediately capturing the audience's attention. The music began gently, flowing with emotion, each note carrying a story. The girl allowed herself to feel every chord, every harmony, and she poured her heart into the performance. The audience could sense her passion, their eyes fixed on her as she played with precision and grace. The piece grew in complexity as it progressed. Fast passages, intricate rhythms, and sudden changes in melody challenged her skills, but she navigated each one flawlessly. Her fingers moved quickly and confidently across the keys, creating music that was both delicate and powerful. The audience was captivated. Some leaned forward, trying to catch every note, while others closed their eyes, letting the music speak to them directly. The girl felt a deep connection with everyone in the room, her emotions flowing through the piano and into the hearts of those listening. Halfway through the piece, the music took a dramatic turn. Sharp chords and sudden tempo changes demanded full attention, and she responded with focus and skill. The audience gasped at the complexity, whispering in amazement. Some people were completely silent, unable to believe what they were hearing. The girl didn't notice their reactions. She was fully immersed in the music. Her fingers danced over the keys, every note precise, every chord intentional. It was as if the piano had become an extension of herself, allowing her to express emotions she had never been able to put into words. She thought of the countless hours of practice, the struggles, and the moments of doubt that had brought her here. Each challenge had strengthened her, teaching patience, perseverance, and dedication. Now, as she played flawlessly, she felt a sense of triumph and fulfillment. The audience could feel the depth of her effort and the sincerity of her passion. Even those who had mocked her at the beginning were now completely absorbed, realizing they had misjudged her. The girl's music became more expressive with each passing moment. She allowed herself to feel joy, sorrow, hope, and excitement all at once, letting these emotions guide her fingers. The room was silent except for the piano, and the audience was completely mesmerized. Some wiped away tears, moved by the beauty and emotion of the performance. Others whispered quietly to each other, sharing their amazement at her talent. The mocking and doubt from earlier were gone, replaced by awe and respect. As the piece reached its climax, the intensity increased. Rapid sequences of notes and intricate chords demanded full concentration, and she played with unwavering focus. The audience was on the edge of their seats, completely captivated. Every note was precise, yet filled with emotion. The girl could feel the energy of the room responding to her music. She was no longer just performing. She was communicating directly with everyone present, telling a story that touched their hearts. The final section approached, and the music became more delicate, yet powerful. Each note hung in the air, resonating with emotion. The audience was completely silent, holding their breath, experiencing the full impact of the performance. The girl felt a sense of exhilaration, knowing she had given everything she had to this moment. Her fingers moved effortlessly, each note expressing the depth of her talent and passion. The room seemed to exist only for her and the piano, the outside world fading away. When she struck the final chord, it lingered in the air, long and clear. The audience remained silent for a moment, as if taking in the beauty and emotion of what they had just witnessed. Then, applause erupted. It started softly but quickly grew into a powerful, unified sound that filled the entire room. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even whistling in amazement. The girl felt a rush of joy, relief, and pride. She had faced every challenge, every doubt, and every mocking remark, and had turned them into admiration and respect. After the performance, audience members approached her, expressing their awe and admiration. Some admitted they had been wrong to judge her so quickly. Others simply nodded in respect, unable to find the words to describe their amazement. The girl accepted their praise with humility, feeling proud but focused on the music itself. She knew that the true value of her talent was in sharing it with others, not in seeking recognition or praise. Walking through the crowd, she noticed how the atmosphere had changed completely. Those who had doubted or mocked her were now in awe, whispering to each other, shaking their heads, or smiling in amazement. The girl felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her dedication, courage, and passion had touched the hearts of everyone present. She had transformed doubt into respect, silence into applause, and mocking into admiration. Reflecting on her journey, the girl realized that every struggle, every practice session, and every moment of perseverance had led to this point. Courage, passion, and dedication were just as important as skill. Her music had not only entertained but inspired, leaving a lasting impression on everyone in the room. She knew that this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges and more opportunities to grow. But tonight had shown her the power of believing in herself and sharing her gift with the world. She walked away from the piano with a quiet sense of confidence and pride. The audience continued to talk about her performance, expressing amazement and respect. Some admitted they had been wrong to judge her, while others simply shook their heads in awe. The girl smiled softly, knowing that she had made a lasting impact. Her music had touched hearts, inspired others, and proven that talent, dedication, and courage could overcome doubt and mockery. She had turned an evening of skepticism into an unforgettable experience, leaving everyone stunned and inspired. The girl approached the piano for the sixth and final performance with a sense of calm determination. She had already captivated the audience with her previous pieces, but this performance was the most important. It was not just about music. It was about showing who she truly was, about sharing everything she had learned, felt, and practiced over the years. The room was completely silent, and the audience watched her every movement. Some faces were full of anticipation, others filled with admiration. Everyone was waiting for her to begin. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a moment, and let herself feel the music. Then gently, she pressed the first key. The sound was soft but clear, filling the room with a delicate melody that immediately captured attention. She allowed herself to be fully immersed in the music, feeling each note resonate with her emotions. The audience listened intently, aware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The piece started slowly, each note deliberate, full of emotion, as if telling a story without words. The girl's fingers moved gracefully across the keys, expressing joy, sorrow, hope, and determination all at once. The audience was silent, captivated by her performance. Those who had doubted her or mocked her earlier could not look away. They were witnessing a young girl transform simple notes into something magical, a performance that left a deep impression on everyone present. As the music progressed, it became more complex. Fast passages and intricate rhythms required skill and focus, and she played them flawlessly. Her fingers flew across the keys with precision and grace. The audience could feel the dedication, passion, and countless hours of practice behind each note. Every chord, every harmony, spoke of her journey, her perseverance, and her courage. People in the audience were leaning forward, some whispering in disbelief, others with tears in their eyes. The mocking had disappeared completely. There was only admiration and awe. Halfway through the piece, the melody shifted dramatically. Powerful chords and sudden changes in tempo created a sense of excitement and suspense. The girl moved through this section with confidence, her fingers dancing across the keys, perfectly controlling each note. The audience was completely captivated. Some could not believe the level of skill and emotion they were witnessing. The music seemed to flow directly from her heart, reaching the hearts of everyone in the room. She remembered the countless hours she had spent practicing this exact piece in her room. She recalled the frustration of mistakes, the patience required to master difficult sections, and the joy when she finally played it correctly. All of that experience came together in this performance, creating music that was both technically perfect and deeply emotional. The audience felt it, some closing their eyes to fully absorb the beauty, others watching her in complete amazement. The girl's emotions poured into the music. She played with passion, letting the piano express everything she had felt over the years. The melody rose and fell, gentle at times, powerful at others. She allowed herself to get lost in the music, moving with it, breathing with it, letting it carry her. The audience was completely absorbed, hanging on every note, every chord, every pause. They were no longer just listeners. They were part of the experience. As the performance reached its climax, the intensity increased. Rapid sequences, high notes, and complex chords demanded all her focus, and she played with absolute precision. The audience was spellbound, some holding their breath, some leaning closer, trying to take in every detail. The girl felt a rush of exhilaration as the music reached its peak. She had never felt so alive while playing. Every practice, every moment of doubt, every struggle had led to this powerful, unforgettable performance. The final section approached. The girl slowed the tempo slightly, letting each note resonate fully. The audience was completely silent, captivated by the emotion in her playing. Her fingers moved with grace and control, expressing hope, triumph, and joy. The room seemed to hold its breath as she played the last chord. The note lingered in the air, long and clear, leaving the audience in a state of awe and wonder. The silence after the final note was almost sacred, as if the room itself was paying tribute to her talent and courage. Then, applause erupted. The sound was thunderous, echoing through the room. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even shouting their admiration. The girl felt a wave of relief, joy, and pride. She had faced doubt, fear, and mockery, and transformed them into admiration, respect, and awe. She smiled softly, feeling both humble and proud. Music had been her language all these years, and tonight it had spoken louder than any words ever could. After the performance, audience members approached her to congratulate her. Some expressed how impressed they were, how moved they felt by her playing. Others admitted they had been wrong to doubt her. The girl accepted their admiration quietly, feeling proud but focused on the music itself. She knew that her talent was not for recognition alone, but for sharing something meaningful, something that could touch hearts and inspire others. Walking through the crowd, she noticed how completely the atmosphere had changed. Those who had laughed at her before now looked at her with respect and admiration. People whispered excitedly, sharing their astonishment at her skill and passion. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her courage, dedication, and love for music had made a lasting impact. She had shown that true talent, when combined with perseverance and heart, could overcome doubt and mockery, leaving everyone stunned. Reflecting on the evening, the girl realized how far she had come. The countless hours of practice, the struggles, the frustration, and the perseverance had all led to this moment. She understood that courage, passion, and dedication were just as important as skill. Her music had not only entertained but inspired, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who had witnessed it. The experience was transformative, both for her and for the audience. She knew this was only the beginning of her journey. There would be more performances, more challenges, and more opportunities to grow. But tonight had taught her an invaluable lesson. Believing in herself and allowing her music to speak could create a profound impact. She had turned doubt into admiration, laughter into respect, and silence into applause. Her performance had left everyone in the room stunned and inspired, a memory they would never forget. As she stepped away from the piano for the last time, she felt a quiet confidence. The audience continued to discuss her performance, expressing amazement and respect. Some admitted they had misjudged her, while others simply shook their heads in awe. She smiled softly, carrying the memory of the evening in her heart. Her music had touched lives, inspired others, and proven that talent, courage, and passion could triumph over doubt and mockery. The girl had transformed a moment of skepticism into an unforgettable experience, leaving a lasting impression that would be remembered by all who witnessed it.